Do stay with us here on Life FM 93.1, shining the light over Cork. I think it was a series of bad choices that led me to where I was 17 years ago. I had a good upbringing, I mean, very happy home, very loving parents. But when I was 14, my mum got sick and she passed away. When I was 15, I just turned 15, and then 10 months later, my dad passed away. They both had cancer. Coming up on the show today, we'll be joined. I was the youngest, and I was quite lazy and a centre of attention, and I thought, you know, maybe it's just because I was not a very nice child that this was some sort of punishment. Okay, lots more on the way. We'll also. It was in the early 80s, and it was a very bad recession time in Ireland. Within a few years, two of my brothers had emigrated. I started drinking and skipping school and smoking dope and gone down a very, very bad road. Today we're in the final of this 8-part series. We've been talking a little bit about how life can be filled with ups and downs. And well, I continued on that lifestyle, and I met Brian. We were living, that's my husband now. We weren't married then, we were living together. I was very lonely, even though I had 3 beautiful children. I was living with Brian. I knew he loved me on one sense, but I couldn't accept love. I just thought, as soon as he sees what I'm really like, he'll be gone. And that's why I never wanted to get married. One day Brian came home and he said, "Oh, I found this radio station that we should listen to." So he turned it on, and I thought, what? I'm not listening to that. What? I thought he'd gone a bit mad. Anyway, he kept turning it on. I started hearing stories about miracles, and I thought, well, that can't be true. If that was true, I'd hear it on the 9 o'clock news. But I kept listening and hearing these stories, and I thought, I remember hearing one story in particular, and it was this man who had been involved in the paramilitaries up in Northern Ireland. And this guy was talking about having a personal relationship with Jesus and knowing God. And this is a guy who had murdered, who had killed innocent people. And I thought, primary school this September. Wow, and that doubles almost for kids who are going into secondary school. You see, I believe 2 things. The first thing was that I believed that I'd done so many bad things that God would have nothing to do with me. I burned my bridges with God. And then I thought that you had to get good. You had to sort yourself out and be good before you could come to God. So I said, Lord, I want to give my entire life to you, but you have to help me. I'm in a bind. I knew I was smoking probably about 40 cigarettes a day, 50. And I was smoking a lot of dope as well. And I was sitting in the kitchen later on that morning, and it was like I heard a voice in my head, but I knew it wasn't me. And I believe it was the Lord. He said, "You're never going to smoke again." And I knew I was instantly set free. I never touched another cigarette or another joint, or I just knew. I knew that I was never going to smoke again. We went in the very first day we went to a church. The visiting speaker said, you know, if there's anyone here who has a struggle with drugs or alcohol or smoking, come up and get prayer. And Brian went up to the front, and this pastor, this visiting speaker, prayed with him. And he walked out of the church, threw the cigarettes in the bin, and that was it. Really, our lives were completely transformed. It's hard to explain. They were transformed instantly, but there were also things that took time. we had to face up to some things in ourselves as well. You know, we weren't instantly delivered from all of our struggles. I know that no matter what struggles we come up against, no matter how difficult things get, that God has a plan in place.